So when I was in like 7th grade, I got busted for plagiarism. The assignment was a simple reading, write a short essay about it, and I just lifted 2 complete sentences from the reading, put it into my essay, and forgot to put quotes around it. It was the first and only time I ever got sent to the principal's office. But apparently I didn't get the message because using other people's words for my own benefit became something of a crutch of mine. Sometimes it was harmless, like I loved to amuse my friends by reciting long passages from my favorite movies, or Weird Al songs, or Calvin and Hobbes, which I was a huge fan of. Other times it was more problematic, like I went through a phase of telling other people's stories as if they had happened to me. Actually, the reason I'm here right now is because at the Howl open mic, the story I told was about telling a story for years that never happened to me and the consequences of lying about it. But I wanted to be a creative person, and I tried different things. I wrote songs, but my songs sounded too much like other songs. I wrote fiction that just mimicked the plots and styles of the books that I was reading. And I know people say, like, everybody does that to some extent, but I look back at what I was making then, and it's a little too close for comfort. Like, there is a line, and I was crossing that line over and over. It felt like every time I tried to do something original, what came out was at best imitation, at worst, outright plagiarism. Then I discovered filmmaking, and ultimately documentary filmmaking. And if ever there was a profession where it's okay to put somebody else's words in your own creation, that would be documentary filmmaking. The whole point is stitching together what other people are saying, and you don't have to remember to put quotes around anything. So after college, I decided I was going to make my own feature documentary film. And pretty early on, I was given an amazing opportunity. A PBS production company was interested in my film, and they kind of took me under their wing, and I was able to collaborate with some incredibly talented and experienced filmmakers while working on my film. It was really exciting. The film took 3 years to make. I poured myself into it, and when it was done, I packaged it up, sent it off to a whole bunch of film festivals. I submitted it to PBS programs, sent it to distributors. I thought this was going to be my big break. As the rejection letters rolled in, I tried to keep a positive attitude, but each one hurt more than the last. I had applied to like 20 different film festivals. Mine didn't get into a single one. PBS didn't want it. I did manage to get it reviewed by the Boston Globe, but it was not a good review. I remember the words insensitive and self-congratulatory. All of this was rather disappointing. At that point, I had parted ways with the production company that took me under their wing. I'd moved back in with my parents, and my intention was to make another film, a better film. But I just couldn't seem to make any headway, and the months dragged on, and it was in this dark and quiet period of self-doubt that I found myself on the campus of my old high school. I was meeting up with a friend, and I bumped into a teacher there, this guy Jeff, who I had never had as a teacher, but we knew each other. I said hello, and Jeff does a double take, and he's like, "Oh my God, Dakin, I can't believe you're here." And then he gets really serious and says, "I have something for you. Come with me." I'm like, okay, and I follow him up to his office, and he explains how he's been packing up his office to go on sabbatical and just unearthed this letter, and he hands me a sealed envelope addressed to Dakin, ... of the future. I had no memory of this, but apparently Jeff facilitated an exercise for new students, so at the beginning of high school, where you write a letter to your future self and they give it back to you when you graduate and you can reflect on how much you've grown. Obviously, I never opened the letter when I graduated, and here it was. And Jeff was like, I almost threw it out, but didn't for some reason, so it must say something important. Honestly, I was afraid to open that letter. I didn't want to hear about the hopes and dreams of my high school self. I didn't want to reflect on all the ways I had fallen short. That letter probably sat on my desk for like 2 weeks, just burning a hole in the back of my head, until finally, alone in my parents' basement, I opened it up. Dear Dakin, you've done things I haven't done. You've seen things I haven't seen. You know things I don't know. You lucky dog. I don't know how many of you might have caught this, but that is word for word a line from Calvin and Hobbes. And there were no quotes around it, but I knew what it was. The letter went on, something to the effect of, the girl next to me is writing really intently, so I better keep my pencil moving. Blah, 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 yada, 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 a bunch of doodles and scribbles. And then, okay, time to go. See you in the future. Somehow, reading this at that time, I felt this huge flood of relief wash over me. It was like my past self was reaching out and saying, it's okay. Don't worry about it so much. After that, I did not abandon documentary filmmaking, but I decided I didn't want to spend another 3 years working on one project. I freelanced a bit, I made some short films. Eventually I got a job as a video producer, and that's what I'm still doing today. I'm still borrowing other people's words when I'm trying to be creative, because that didn't have to be my greatest weakness. It turned out to be possible to convert into an asset. And whenever I find myself getting all up in my head about something that didn't work out the way I'd hoped, I remember that letter and remind myself not to take everything so seriously.